This audiobook invites you on a transformative journey through ancient shamanic wisdom and modern science. Across 7 immersive chapters, you'll explore the invisible forces that shape healing, destiny, and the evolution of consciousness. From energy medicine and soul retrieval to neuroplasticity and the awakening of the homoluminous self, this work offers a powerful map for those ready to live with purpose, presence, and luminous clarity. This audiobook, inspired by the teachings of Alberto Villoldo. Chapter 1. The Journey into Shamanism. I was born in Cuba, where my childhood was marked by fear. Bombs falling near the airport, nights spent hiding under the bed. A part of me stayed in that fear for decades. Though I sought healing through psychology, neuroscience, and even led a brain lab, something was always missing. The boy still hiding. True healing came when I encountered shamans in the Amazon and Andes. They introduced me to soul retrieval, calling back the lost parts of ourselves. In one journey, I found that boy again. He could laugh. He remembered joy. Shamanic traditions aren't observed. They're lived. As a child, I saw spirits, but shut that part of me down. Years later, in the lab, 5 glowing figures appeared. One asked, "Is this the place of judgment?" That moment broke the illusion that science and spirit were separate. Shamans understand the invisible realm as the true source of healing, not just treating symptoms, but restoring meaning. In their world, illness doesn't exist, only sick people. Healing is holistic and preventive, rooted in deep alignment with who we are and who we're becoming. In the West, we think we're shaped only by our past. But the future, too, can reach back and guide us. In the quantum field, intention creates reality. That's where real healing begins. Not by fixing what's broken, but by remembering we're whole. This is the path I walk now. A journey not just of mind, but of spirit. Chapter 2. Healing Beyond the Physical. This became clear to me the deeper I walked the shamanic path. In the West, we focus our attention on eradicating disease. Our healthcare system isn't a health system at all. It's a disease management system. We wait until things fall apart, and then we try to patch them up. But in the Amazon, I heard something that changed everything. There is no such thing as disease. Only sick people. That wisdom struck like lightning. We create names for clusters of symptoms: cancer, dementia, depression. And then we treat the label. We go to war against it. But the shamans don't ask what the illness is. They ask, who is this person? What have they forgotten about themselves? What has been left behind? They're not interested in the name of the disease. They are interested in the story the soul is trying to tell through the body. In indigenous societies, the shaman's job isn't just to heal, it's to prevent illness altogether. The health of the village determines the health of the shaman. If people begin to get sick, the shaman loses their role, because their work is upstream, in the invisible, in the place where balance is either maintained or broken. We now know that 1 in 2 people in the Western world will develop Alzheimer's by the age of 85. That is an epidemic not of the body alone, but of disconnection. I've spent time with tribes in the Andes and the Amazon, where dementia simply does not exist. There are no nursing homes, no memory clinics, because the wisdom of the village is held by the elders, and their minds are sacred territory. Protecting the brain was a sacred act, not because of fear, but because the wisdom of generations resided there. And when you protect the brain, you're not just preserving memory. You are cultivating vitality, These elders did not just survive, they thrived. Cancer was rare, heart disease almost unknown. Why? Because their health wasn't just physical, it was energetic, it was luminous. The shamans taught me that surrounding our physical body is an energy field, luminous and intelligent. It organizes our health, our emotions, and our destiny. When that field is disturbed, illness eventually manifests. But if you work at the level of the field, you don't just treat illness. You can erase the imprint that allows the disease to take hold in the first place. I remember working with a voodoo priestess in Haiti. I had been invited to assist in a study of energy healing and was curious but skeptical. "How do you hurt someone energetically?" I asked her. She smiled. "We don't hurt," she said. "We restore balance. But if someone harms our people, we call their energy body during sleep. We see the dark mass of energy, and we gently tap it, not to destroy, but to nudge it out. And their immune system collapses if the darkness is allowed to remain." That struck me deeply. Disease was not the enemy. It was a messenger, a symptom of imbalance in the field. And healing meant clearing that darkness. Not through chemicals, but through intent, energy, and ancient practice. I witnessed this firsthand when I invited the same priestess to work on me. At first, I joked that it was all in our heads. But after one remote session, I fell violently ill. I was sweating, shaking, vomiting. I thought I had caught a tropical parasite. Then the phone rang. "Are you feeling anything?" the voice on the line asked. "We're working on you right now." I told them to give her an extra $20 to stop. It was a painful lesson, but it was real. The field is real, and it speaks louder than any lab test ever could. In the West, we're finally catching up. We speak now of epigenetics, the way that environment and emotion turn genes on and off. We know that trauma doesn't just live in memory. It lives in the body. And more importantly, it lives in the energy field that wraps around the body. That's where the real healing must begin. Every emotion we carry, grief, shame, fear, sends a signal through the field and alters our biology. It changes the way our cells behave. It modifies what genes express themselves. And through this, our story becomes our physiology. That's why forgiveness is not just spiritual. It's biochemical. When you release the weight of what's been done to you, your field begins to clear. Your body begins to heal. Not because you added something, but because you remove the interference. We are not victims of our biology. We are authors of it. Every thought, every emotion, every act of grace or resentment sends a signal that ripples through the field and informs our physical reality. And yet, we are so often taught to fear our own power. We are told we are fragile, that we must be managed, diagnosed, fixed. But the shaman's role is to remind us, you are luminous, you are whole. Your field may be clouded, but your essence is untouched. This is not to say that Western medicine is wrong. Far from it. It is the best trauma medicine in the world. If you are bitten by a snake, go to the ER, but once you've survived, then go see the shaman. Ask why the snake bit you. What did the venom have to say? What in your energy drew the bite? Because healing is not just about surviving, it's about meaning, it's about alignment. So many of the illnesses we face today are not rooted in bacteria or viruses, but in disconnection. We've forgotten the language of the body. We've stopped listening to the whisper of spirit. And so the body must scream. But there is another way. We can return to the root. Not just to nature, but to our nature. The deeper truth of who we are. And when we do, healing becomes less about fixing and more about revealing. less about war, and more about remembering the song we were born with. In that remembering, everything begins to change. Chapter 3: Energy, Intent, and the Luminous Body. There is a luminous energy field that surrounds the body. The shamans of the Amazon and Andes speak of it not as metaphor but as reality, a living matrix, a field of information, intelligence, and light that governs our biology, our mind, and our future. Western science is just beginning to catch up to what indigenous traditions have known for thousands of years. That energy precedes matter. Your body, your emotions, your thoughts, they all arise from the field. And when you work at the level of the field, true transformation becomes possible. Not just managing symptoms, but clearing the imprints of disease before they can manifest. The luminous energy field carries the blueprint of who you are, and also who you are becoming. It remembers what your body has forgotten. It knows the sound of your original song, the harmony you came into this life to embody. And when it is clear, you thrive. You heal, you remember. But when it is clouded, by trauma, by fear, by belief systems that no longer serve, your biology suffers, your thinking contracts, your path narrows. This is why so many people today feel lost, tired, or sick with no diagnosis. The field is out of alignment, and the first step toward healing is to restore its coherence. This is the realm where shamans work. They do not treat the body. They treat the field, and in doing so, they treat the future. The field, you see, is non-local. It is not bound by time. In the quantum field, which modern physics describes but the ancients lived, there is no past and future as we understand them. There is only now. Intent becomes the driving force. What you focus on, you amplify. What you fear, you magnetize. What you love, you become. The shamans say, the universe doesn't speak English, it speaks energy. And the language of that energy is intent. Intent is not desire. It is not longing or wishing. Intent is clarity. It is commitment without attachment. It is the ability to stand in the present moment, face the invisible, and declare, this is who I am. This is what I will become. And the field responds. This is why ancient initiation rites were so powerful. They were not symbolic. They were energetic rewrites of destiny. When you faced your fear, walked through the fire, touched death, and returned, you altered the energetic blueprint of your life. You became the author, no longer the actor. I remember my first vision quest deep in the Andes. I had already studied for years, learned the practices, even taught some, but I had not yet surrendered. I had not yet allowed myself to be rewritten. The journey took me to the edge, mentally, physically, spiritually. I fasted. I prayed. I slept on the earth without shelter, asking the invisible world to reveal itself, and it did. Not in lightning bolts or visions, but in silence, deep, wordless knowing. I understood that healing wasn't about fixing the body. It was about listening to the soul, and that the soul spoke not in words, but in vibration. The field vibrates. When it is healthy, it sings. When it is disturbed, it distorts. That's what illness is. Distortion in the signal. And the healer's job is not to attack the distortion, but to restore the song. So how do we do this? We begin by understanding that energy follows attention. Where you place your focus, your field responds. This is why practices like meditation, breathwork, and stillness are so vital, not as relaxation tools, but as recalibration rituals. You are not calming the mind. You are tuning the field. The chakras, for example, are not simply spinning wheels of color. They are information centers. energy routeurs that correspond to the glands and nerve plexuses in the body. When a chakra is blocked, the systems it governs begin to fail. Not immediately, but eventually. And so when a shaman works with the chakras, they are not playing with symbols. They are adjusting the code. They are working with the software that drives your biology. In our modern world, this may sound foreign, but it's not. It's ancient. It's encoded into the architecture of life itself. Your pineal gland, your vagus nerve, your gut biome. These are not just body parts. They are portals, gateways into a deeper intelligence that connects you to the earth, to the stars, and to the source of life itself. When you align your field, you align your life. Opportunities arrive, synchronicities multiply, healing begins to unfold without effort. Because you are no longer fighting reality. You are flowing with it. But there is a caution. As you work with energy, you must remain humble. The ego loves to claim power. It says, look what I've done. Look how healed I am. But the field is not a trophy. It is a teacher. And every time you align with it, it shows you more of yourself. The beautiful, the broken, the vast, and the terrifying. Because to become luminous is not to become perfect. It is to become transparent, honest, whole. You begin to see not only your own energy, but that of others. You sense when someone is lying, when they are hiding, when they are afraid. And your compassion grows, not from superiority, but from shared humanity. Because the field doesn't lie, it reflects. And if you are willing to see what it shows you, you can become free. Free from patterns, free from fate, free to choose your destiny, not by effort, but by resonance. This is the path of the luminous warrior. Not one who fights, but one who aligns, who listens, who stands with both feet in the earth and eyes fixed on the infinite, who knows that everything, every challenge, every illness, every loss, is an invitation to remember who you truly are. And so we return to the beginning. Energy. You are not a machine. You're not a diagnosis. You're a field of light, wrapped in a human body. Here for a time to learn, to love, to heal, and to awaken. When you work with your energy, you are working with the source code of your life. And in that sacred act of remembrance, you become the healer you've been searching for all along. Chapter 4. Neuroplasticity, Epigenetics, and the rewiring of destiny. We used to believe that our genes were fixed, a set of biological instructions handed down like an unchangeable script. It runs in my family, people say, as though their fate were carved in stone. But science, at last, is catching up with what the shamans have always known. We are not prisoners of our biology. We are the authors of it. This is where neuroplasticity and epigenetics come in. These are not just scientific terms. They are spiritual tools. They describe what happens when you rewrite the story you live inside. Not just in your mind, but in your cells. Neuroplasticity tells us that the brain can change, that it is not fixed, but fluid. Every thought, every emotion, every practice has the power to reshape the neural pathways that define your experience. You can build new roads. You can tear down old ones. And in doing so, you change not just how you think, but who you become. And epigenetics. This is the great liberator. Your genes are not your destiny. They are a library of possibilities. Some codes are active, others dormant. And the key that decides which are expressed is your environment. The food you eat, the emotions you carry, the relationships you cultivate, and most powerfully, your beliefs. What you believe about yourself becomes a biochemical signal to your body. If you believe you are broken, your biology will follow suit. If you believe you are whole, your cells will listen. That's not magic. That's biochemistry. Every thought releases neuropeptides. Every emotion shifts your hormonal landscape. And over time, these become the operating system of your body. I've seen people silence thousands of disease-causing genes within 24 hours simply by changing how they eat, how they breathe, how they think. Broccoli sprouts, for example. Simple, homemade, filled with sulforaphane. Can down-regulate inflammatory genes with astonishing speed. But it's not just what you eat. It's who you become as you eat. Because your body is not a machine. It's an orchestra, and you're the conductor. In the Andes, I met elders who lived in perfect harmony with their environment. Not because they took the right supplements or followed a diet, but because they understood the rhythm of life. They rose with the sun, rested with the moon, gave thanks for their food, walked barefoot on the earth. They didn't biohack. They listened. They participated. And they thrived. Your brain is not separate from your heart. Your gut is not just a digestive tube. The latest science confirms what the shamans have always taught. You have 3 brains. One in your skull, one in your heart, one in your gut. All are filled with neurons. All are in constant conversation. And when they are in harmony, you are in health. The neurotransmitter serotonin plays a central role here. Most people think serotonin lives in the brain, but 90% of it is produced in the gut, and it is essential not only for mood, but for memory, digestion, sleep, and even creativity. But here's the catch. Serotonin needs precursors. It requires tryptophan, an amino acid found in natural whole foods. Yet, modern agriculture has stripped our foods of nutrients. Today, most people walk around deficient. Not just in nutrients, but in clarity, in joy, in resilience. The chain is broken, so we must restore it. Sometimes that means using supplements. Powdered tryptophan, 5-HTP, fermented foods. But the deeper healing comes when we repair the gut, rebalance the brain, and align with nature once again. When the gut is healthy, it produces serotonin. That serotonin then travels via the vagus nerve to the brain, where it repairs the hippocampus, the region responsible for memory, learning, and emotional regulation. And when that healing occurs, something extraordinary begins. The pineal gland can awaken. The pineal is a sacred center, the seat of vision, the inner eye. When your body is aligned, the pineal converts serotonin into melatonin so you can sleep. But under conditions of stillness, presence, and intentionality, the pineal can take it one step further. It converts serotonin into DMT. The spirit molecule. DMT is produced when you are born, when you die, and when you fall deeply in love. It is the molecule of transition, the bridge between worlds. The shamans know this well. They work with plants that contain DMT not to escape reality, but to remember it, to see what has always been there. But you don't need plants to access this state. Your own body, your own breath, your own stillness is enough, when supported and remembered. This is why I speak so often about building resilience. Not just longevity. Longevity is living long. Resilience is living well. And the first law of resilience is, don't do stupid things, stay alive, then harmonize. This means more than just removing toxins or managing stress. It means creating coherence between your thoughts and your actions, between your diet and your values, between your biology and your spirit. The shamans never separated the physical from the energetic. The body is spirit in form. Every organ, every cell, Every neural network is infused with intelligence. And you are not its victim, you are its architect. We live in a world addicted to data. But half the studies published in major journals are unreliable. This isn't my opinion. This is what their editors have admitted. We must become our own chief scientists. We must interpret our data not just through algorithms, but through wisdom. That wisdom begins with a simple question. What is this body trying to tell me? When you shift from fixing to listening, healing begins. When you shift from fate to design, destiny awakens. Because that's the real gift here. Not just to heal the body, but to reshape your future. To stop asking what genes run in your family. And start asking what vision runs through your soul. You are not just a result of your past. You are a messenger from the future. And when you begin to live from that place, from the wisdom of your heart, the power of your brain, and the truth in your gut, your entire life becomes a different story. Not one of damage and repair, but one of remembrance and radiant design. Chapter 5. The Medicine Wheel and the Four Sacred Journeys. The medicine wheel is not just a teaching. It is a map of transformation. It is a living geometry of energy, evolution, and rebirth. It shows us how to shed the past, walk with power, journey into the unknown, and soar into vision. This is not mythology. It is practical mysticism, a system for becoming whole, for becoming homoluminous. The wheel has 4 directions. Each one holds a path, a lesson, and a guardian. But more than that, each direction invites us to die to an old part of ourselves and be reborn into something truer, freer, and more luminous. We begin in the south, the way of the serpent. The serpent is a path of shedding. Just as a snake sheds its skin all at once, we are invited to release the stories that no longer serve. The pain, the trauma, the identity we have worn like a costume. The serpent teaches us that trauma is not what happened to you. It is the story you wrapped around it. When you understand that, you stop clinging to it. You begin to rewrite it. The South is about healing the past, not by reliving it, but by transforming your relationship to it. You place your belly on the belly of the earth and surrender the old skins. You return to the mother, Pachamama, and let her compost your wounds into wisdom. From there, we move to the west, the way of the jaguar. The jaguar is the guardian of the shadow. She walks the jungle at night, unafraid, unconquered. This path demands that you face your fears, not to destroy them, but to become their master. Fear of death, fear of failure, fear of your own light. The jaguar teaches us that true fearlessness is not the absence of fear, but the ability to walk forward even as fear stands at the gate. She invites us to journey beyond death, to die before we die. Because only when you have met death with grace can you truly live with power. This is the path of reclaiming your sovereignty, of moving beyond victimhood, of ceasing to see yourself as the broken child, and instead recognizing yourself as an earthkeeper, a guardian of life. Then we arrive in the north, the way of the hummingbird. Hummingbird medicine is the great journey. These tiny creatures migrate thousands of miles, from Brazil to Canada, on wings not designed for such travel. They don't stop to wonder if they're strong enough. They don't complain about the lack of flowers along the way. They say yes to the call of spirit, and they go. The north is the place where you hear the voice of your calling. Not a career, not a role, but your sacred task, your dharma. You don't have to be ready. You just have to say yes. The act of saying yes opens doors you didn't even know existed. This is the path of the hero's journey, of answering the call even when it makes no sense, even when the timing is wrong, even when the resources seem thin. Because the universe doesn't support readiness, it supports willingness. And then, finally, we come to the East, the way of the eagle. Eagle medicine is vision, perspective, illumination. The eagle soars high above the land. Where others see chaos, she sees pattern. Where others see obstacles, she sees wind currents to ride. In the East, we open our inner sight. We stop focusing only on what is visible and begin to perceive the invisible architecture behind all things. This is the realm of prophecy, intuition, and dreaming the world into being. The eagle asks us to fly higher, not to escape life, but to see it whole, to rise above conflict and enter clarity, to live from the soul, not from the ego, and in doing so, to create a new reality, for ourselves, for our families, for the planet. These 4 paths, serpent, your jaguar, hummingbird, and eagle, are not just stages. They are ways of being. They live within us. At different times in our life, one becomes more prominent, and we cycle through them again and again, always at a higher octave, like a spiral moving upward. In the teachings I share, these journeys become initiations, real, grounded, embodied transformations. You do not just read about the serpent. You shed your skin. You do not study the jaguar. You meet your fear in the jungle of your psyche. You do not imagine the hummingbird. You begin your pilgrimage. And when the eagle calls, you take flight. The medicine wheel also mirrors the levels of reality. The serpent teaches the physical, the body, the molecules, the chemistry. The jaguar teaches the emotional and psychological, the stories, the mind, the language. The hummingbird opens the realm of the soul, beyond words, into myth, into the numinous. And the eagle brings us into the energetic, the pure field, the unspoken knowing, the light that guides all form. To walk the wheel is to reclaim your power at each of these levels. It is to understand that you are not just a body, not just a mind, not just a soul. You are a multidimensional being, capable of healing, vision, creation, and profound service. This is not a spiritual hobby. It is a sacred responsibility. Because when you become coherent, you create a coherent field around you. And coherence is contagious. In times of chaos, the medicine person does not panic. They do not try to fix the world. They become a small island of order, a point of balance, and that balance begins to organize the larger system. This is the shamanic way, to be the still point in the turning world, to be the eye in the storm, to be the luminous presence that reminds others. We can return to harmony. We can rise. We can dream again. The medicine wheel teaches us that we are not trapped in a linear story. We are living inside a spiral of transformation. And at every point, we can choose. We can shed, face, journey, and fly. It is not always easy. Sometimes the shedding hurts. Sometimes the fear screams. Sometimes the path is dark. But always, the way is forward. And the promise is this: if you walk the wheel with courage, with humility, and with love, you will remember who you are. Not just a seeker, but a luminous being, born for this time, called to this earth, ready to awaken and ready to serve. Chapter 6: Embracing Mortality and Choosing Destiny. At the root of nearly all illness is fear, and at the root of fear is the terror of our own mortality. Not just the fear of dying, but the fear of being finite, of disappearing, of the unknown. We build elaborate lives, collect achievements, extend ourselves in 1,000 directions, all to delay or distract from the one truth we all share. One day, this life, as we know it, ends. But what if death isn't the enemy? The shamans have long understood that to truly live, one must learn to die before they die. Not as metaphor, but as practice, because it is the fear of death, unacknowledged and buried, that shapes so many of our decisions. It drives our addictions, fuels our anxiety, and locks our bodies in a state of chronic stress. When you befriend death, you liberate life. I was taught to make death my ally. One medicine woman said, "Make death your lover. Invite her to the table. Sit with her. Ask her what she wants to teach you." In the West, we recoil at such intimacy with endings. But the shamans know. Death is the great teacher. Without it, there is no birth. Without endings, there are no beginnings. Everything in nature cycles. Your skin, your blood, your thoughts, your breath, even your brain. In my research, I discovered that the brain can regenerate itself every 22 days. You're not stuck with the one you woke up with. Through neurogenesis, through intention, through nourishment and presence, you can grow a new mind. One that is not shaped by fear, but by freedom. And this brings us to destiny. Too often we confuse destiny with fate. But they are not the same. Fate is the life you inherit when you don't question the script. It is what happens when you live inside the stories you were given. By your family, your society, your past. It is linear, predictable, a repetition of what has come before. Destiny, on the other hand, is chosen. Destiny begins when you wake up, when you step outside the narrative and say, "I will no longer be the product of my past. I will become a messenger from the future." You reach forward along your timeline, and you invite the healed, vibrant, wise version of yourself to reach back. And together, you begin to walk. This is the practice of destiny retrieval. Not just healing from what was, but anchoring what can be. The shamans taught me that timelines are like golden ropes. Each moment in your life has threads that stretch into a multitude of possible futures. Some are probable, others are possible, and a few, luminous and wild, are extraordinary. It is not the odds that determine your path, but your intent. If a timeline is possible, and it serves your highest good, you can call it into being. But to do so, you must be willing to let go of the identity that clings to pain. That may sound simple, but it is often the hardest step, because we are familiar with our suffering. It defines us. We find community in it. We find meaning in it. We tell our story through it. Yet the healed self cannot emerge from a narrative of victimhood. It must be birthed in freedom. That freedom begins with a sacred yes. Yes to being more than your story. Yes to walking away from relationships, roles, and routines that dull your light. Yes to not knowing what comes next, but trusting that it will be true. Yes to the life you have not yet lived, but which has been waiting for you all along. This is the call of Dharma, not karma. Karma is the loop. Dharma is the leap. Karma asks, why did this happen to me? Dharma asks, what is life asking me to become? When I lived from karma, I was always fighting. Fighting injustice, fighting limitation. Fighting to prove something, it was a necessary phase. But it was fueled by rebellion. I had not yet surrendered. Then I stepped into Dharma, and everything changed. The struggle fell away. The effort remained, the discipline, the devotion. But the friction was gone. I was no longer pushing against the river. I was swimming with it. Living in Dharma doesn't mean life becomes easy, but it becomes meaningful, clear, guided. You begin to feel the pulse of the universe moving through you. You wake up not with dread, but with fire. Not with confusion, but with commitment. And in that alignment, your life becomes medicine. For yourself, for others, for the earth. This is what I teach my students. You're not here to be healed. You're here to remember you were never broken. You're not here to fit in. You're here to transform. You're not here to survive. You're here to illuminate. To do that, you must befriend your mortality. Not tolerate it. Not suppress it. Befriend it. Invite it in. When you accept that your time is finite, your choices become sacred. You stop wasting energy on what does not matter. You stop postponing joy. You stop pretending you have forever. And you begin to live. There is a practice I recommend. One that brings you into contact with this awareness, not in theory, but in your cells. It is the voluntary cessation of eating and drinking, practiced by elders across cultures as a conscious death rite. When done with reverence, it induces a state of clarity, lucidity, and peace. The nurses who observed this process called it terminal lucidity, a moment before death when the mind clears, the heart opens, and presence returns. Loved ones reappear, memories flood back. There is no fear, only awe, and sometimes even joy. But we do not have to wait for death to experience this. We can cultivate a practice of presence that allows us to touch this clarity now, through stillness, through fasting, through ritual, through surrender. Death will come. That is certain. What remains uncertain, beautifully so, is who you will become before it does. And that is the task. To dice to the false self again and again until only truth remains. To say yes, not once, but daily. To walk the timeline not written for you, but by you. This is the choice we are offered. Not in some distant future, but right now. Every moment is an invitation. Every breath a threshold. And on the other side of that threshold is destiny. Radiant, wild, and waiting. Chapter 7. The Awakening of the homoluminous Human. We are standing at the edge of an evolutionary leap, not a technological one, though AI, machines, and medicine will all play their part. Not merely a societal one. Those systems are crumbling and new ones are being born. This leap is deeper, quieter, radiant. It is the emergence of a new human being, a luminous human, a homoluminous. This is not a fantasy, it is a return. We are remembering something ancient and intimate, that the body is sacred, the field is intelligent, and spirit is not somewhere else but here, now, pulsing in every cell. The homoluminous being is not superhuman. They are fully human, embodied, awake, aligned, not fragmented into roles and routines and regrets, not at war with their own biology, not asleep inside belief systems inherited and unexamined, but whole, present, clear. They are not guided by fear, but by vision, not driven by scarcity, but by creation, not seduced by power, but anchored in service. And perhaps most beautifully, they remember that they are not alone. They are part of a great dream, one being dreamed not just by humanity, but by the earth itself. According to the Andean shamans, before we were born, we gathered in a great green field. A luminous angel appeared and spoke. There will be a time of great upheaval. The earth will tremble, the systems will collapse, war, famine, confusion, an opportunity. Who wants to go? And we said yes. That yes lives in your bones. You may forget it for a time. You may numb it, deny it, bury it beneath the noise. But it never leaves. And when you begin to remember it, life begins to respond. Synchronicities appear. The right book lands in your hands. The right teacher speaks into your soul. The dreams return. The energy shifts. You begin to recognize others who also said yes. There is a resonance, deeper than memory, older than time. You were meant to meet. You were meant to walk together, because this awakening cannot happen alone. The old model of enlightenment was isolation, the mystic in the cave, the monk in the forest. But now, the awakening must be collective. We need each other. We are weaving a new world, and every thread matters. The homoluminous human does not transcend the body. They honor it. They do not flee the mind. They train it. They do not escape the world. They participate in it. Fiercely, lovingly, creatively. They are not perfect, but they are present. And presence is everything. To awaken as homoluminous is not to gain more. It is to let go of fear, of doubt, of delay, of the story that says you are small, separate, or insufficient. And in that release, your true self emerges. A being of light, a keeper of wisdom, a bridge between worlds, a healer, a creator, a mirror of what is possible. We are being asked now to step into this way of being. Not someday, but now. The earth is calling. The future is listening. The time is here. Say yes. Walk the luminous path. Not to escape this world, but to bless it. Not to transcend your body, but to embody your soul. Not to wait for someone else to fix what is broken, but to become the medicine you came here to be. You were born for this. You always were. And the path, though steep, is lit. By the flame you carry. Walk it. Thank you for listening.